It's not every day that you get to meet a Cambridge University graduate in PhD computer science who also happens to be a revolutionary politician. On today's episode, we have one such man who has many academic awards and to boot is a politician who is sure to interest many historians in the near future. Please welcome Dr. C.K. Raut.
Thank you, Anuricca.
Sir, you were born in a small village in the Shirash district, but you climbed your way up high in society through academic pursuit. You went from studying in a village to studying in the capital, to studying abroad in Japan, and of course, most notably, at Cambridge University. That is where you ended your formal education. I want to ask you, for my very first question of this interview, what was the driving force behind your academic pursuit? Did you always believe that computer science was something you wanted to pursue, or was it just a journey of self-discovery?
Well, I think, let me correct you a little bit first. I'm from Saptari district, though there's not much difference between Saptari and Sirha, I'll say. Yes. And as you noted, I was born in a village in Saptari, which is regarded as a remote village, basically. No facility for transportation, even no electricity at that time, no roads, nothing like that. So it was quite a remote village in Nepal, southern part of Nepal, I'll say. And even for a school, we have to go to some long distance school. Okay, we had to walk like 40 minutes to go to school. That is quite usual in Nepal, I'll say. The thing is that because I grew up there, I had the desire to break the cycle of poverty, basically, that we were going through. Yeah. That is the first thing as a child I noted down, okay? That somehow I have to exit this loop, okay? Yes. And that's why we always sought for the ways, how we can go beyond this. And education was one such thing which could do that. Yes. We recognize that because my father was a school teacher. So we believed in education. And from very young age, I dreamed of being an engineer, I'll say. Not definitely the electronics engineer or a computer science engineer, but an engineer, actually. Yes. And that's why after completing my 10th grade, I came to Kathmandu to pursue diploma in electrical engineering. And then I switched to electronics engineering, and later on only I switched to computer science. That's how my academic career began, actually.
That certainly is an impressive journey that you have had. As you know, many people today are against studying abroad, especially with youths leaving the country, studying abroad, settling down abroad. There's a high risk of brain drain. That being said, you are someone who had a successful education abroad and came back to Nepal. In your opinion, should youth study abroad or should they stay back in Nepal and pursue their higher education over here?
Well, I will not discourage studying abroad because you can get a global exposure there, you see. You can get cutting edge research, you can know about various diverse things once you reach there. Yes. So it is an asset, not a liability, okay? So it is good to study abroad in every manner, I'll say, except that our money is going outside. Yes. Okay, that's another part. But for a student, I think it is always an advantage to go abroad and study there and learn something. Most of the time where the disadvantage lies is, once you go there, you complete your study and then you don't decide to come here. Okay, you decide to stay back in those countries. Yes. That is one disadvantage that country is suffering, and what we are calling that brain drain, basically. Yes. So I think the youths should not be discouraged to going outside, but they should be encouraged to return after completing their study abroad. And for that, we should, build an environment, conducive environment back here, so that they can return and do some sort of entrepreneurship, open some businesses, or even open some research labs. We should make this country, the system should give some platform to them so that they can come easily and open up their business or do whatever they like to do actually.
Would you say that such an environment currently exists in Nepal, in your opinion?
I don't think so. But someone has to work on this actually. No one is, it is not coming out of blue, okay?
Yes.
Someone has to work on it. And there are, I mean, once you are here, you are facing problem, then you will discuss about it and then you will go for the solution.
Yes.
For example, I'll give you one example from IT sector. Because many people graduated from the computer science and they are doing extremely well, I'll say. Because if you look at the item export data from the Nepal, I think the largest revenues from the export item is IT services. It is not any other like soybean oils or anything like that. It is
amazing.
IT services.
Yes.
Okay, and there are lots of hindrances for them. Okay, for example, they could not open their branch offices outside. They could not even hire servers because there was no means for payment in dollars. Okay, so there were lots of hurdles there. But once they realized that okay, IT services are generating quite good revenues for the country, and there are lots of people, almost 30,000 to 50,000 people are engaged. Engineers are engaged in that sector. Then they discover the problems and then they are finding remedies for that. For example, I mean, last week the government brought ordinances that allowed the Nepalese IT company to open their branch offices outside. That is one positive improvement, I'll say.
Yes.
So once you are here, you discover the problem and then we'll try to fix it. So unless you are not here, there will not be any problem.
Yes.
For the problem, you have to first try here. Okay. So I would always encourage youth living outside who have graduated from the overseas university to come back here, because I mean, there are lots of opportunities here. You see, for example, if we are in the USA or for say in some good university,
Yes.
at that part of the world, everything is well developed. Okay, all the labs are well built, all the systems are well built. So you don't have much opportunity to do something.
Yes.
Whereas when you come back to Nepal, there are no labs. Okay, that's fine. But then you have the opportunity to set up that lab. You are the pioneer in that field. You
Yes.
see, so that you have to grab that opportunity. That's why you should come. I'd say to those youth.
That certainly is an inspirational message you have there. While we did talk about people going abroad, we should also discuss about the abroad technology coming into Nepal. For example, KP Oli talked to Elon Musk recently about Starlink. In your opinions, should Starlink come to Nepal?
Of course, because we should welcome any technology, I'll say.
Yes.
And we should be positive about it. I'm surprised because we have been quite reluctant. And that's one reason why we are lagging behind. For example, I'll say just one example. Bhutan already legalized at least cryptocurrency farming, okay?
Yes.
Mining, I'll say. And you can see they already sold huge amount of cryptocurrency and earned so many times their GDP value actually. Whereas in Nepal, it is still banned. We could not reap the advantages that we have been reaped out of cryptocurrency. Okay, same thing goes on with other technology. For example, when we started riding services here, what the government did? They discouraged it. You see, they just found some loopholes to stop it.
Yes.
Whereas we should have encouraged it. Eventually, it came.
Yeah.
You see, but we discouraged its initial investors. That was not good. So we should be open to welcome technologies the world is bringing that is good for us.
Well, now that we've talked about Nepali society, I would like to talk about your individual achievements. With your academic recognition, you were able to gain opportunities to work in the USA, particularly as a weapons expert and defense programmer. Could you tell us a bit about your experiences working in the United States during this time? What were the key highlights you would like to make about your experience there?
Well, actually, first, I had the chance to study in Japan, in the UK,
Yes.
and work in the USA. And with this diverse environment, I really got good experience about how the world works, basically, how other good university operate, basically, how the world leading companies operate, basically. So, I mean, when I was in the USA, of course, it is very competitive market, you see. So you have to always prove yourself that you are at that age, you are sharp enough. You have to always prove that. And you have to be very good at communications. And scientists are not very good at communication, I'll say. But we have to, because we have to sell our ideas. We have to sell our ideas first to our supervisors so that they could adopt it and let you work on it. Okay, and then once when you complete that task, then you have to sell it to the company and then to the outside world. So it is very competitive environment there. And when I work there, it is really very professional environment. People don't talk about like individual issues or what your cultural background is, what your religion is, or what your nationality is. They don't care about your age or your sex. Nothing like that. So that is very positive environment to work. Okay, people from all over the world gather there, and then they work on a common task. Okay, then they use best of their minds there. Okay, so that was the very great thing that I had there, because I got the opportunity to work with the best minds in the world. And I think if you know where I worked, that was the company that invented DARPANET and email system. So it was quite a leading company there. And later on, it became the defense company, Rethel, which is the largest exporter of the cruise missiles, actually. But I didn't work on the weaponry part. I worked on the software part only.
Well, that certainly is still impressive, sir. But you did return back to Nepal despite the major opportunities presented to you in the United States. You came back in 2011, I believe, and then right after, you joined political activism, and you founded the Alliance for Independent Madhes, or AIM for short. Was this always something you wanted to pursue later on in life? Was politics truly your calling, or was it something that just spurred out of the moment?
Well, I think most of the youth should know this fact. I think that I had no interest in politics at all. I'm a guy, very studious guy in college, very shy guy who would never speak with anyone.
Yes.
Okay. So during my college years, I had no interest in politics at all. I speak barely few words. I was very shy. I used to go to class or library room and sit all the day there. Yes. I had very few friends. And I never made any speech in my life up to that point. Okay. It was only when I started working in the USA, and once I had the chance to come back to Nepal and travel from Mechi to Mahakali, only after that journey, everything changed and it became completely upside down.
Could you elaborate?
You see, because during that journey, and it was inspired by a few political leaders who visited the United States, and they happened to say that, okay, Nepal is now developed. Okay, whereas when I was there and I had the chance to speak at Harvard University, I had studied the data. Okay, and it showed that Nepal is not doing very well. There are lots of poor people, lots of poverty, lots of unhealthy people, lacking education, and every sector was degrading, basically. Yes. So I had the chance, I got in verbal dispute with the leaders, and I said that I reminded of one experience of mine, actually. When one British friend came to my village, I showed my village, okay, every corner of my village, I'll say, okay. Yes. And when he returned to my house, what he remarked is, there are lots of huts in your villages, but none of them are houses, but no house, basically, okay. So when I told this experience of mine to those leaders, they disagreed. They said, no, Nepal is not like that. You have been living outside for so long, so you don't know about Nepal. Okay, Nepal is now very much developed.
They seem to have denied reality.
Yeah, they denied reality, basically. So maybe I doubted myself. Maybe I have been living for so long outside Nepal. So maybe Nepal must have developed now. So I returned after 1 month and I traveled from Mechi to Mahakali just to see how things are. I had no purpose, just to see things and people, how they are. Okay.
Yes.
And what I observed during that trip changed my whole life. Because I saw poor people, starving people, unemployed people waiting for job, children not going to school and they are grazing goats. Okay, things like that. So I saw very pitiful condition basically. And when I was in, I think, Kanchanpur district, and I visited one displaced village, there they held my feet, okay, and started crying, you see, sobbing. Okay, you should do something for us. We need some land. People, police are chasing us out of this place.
That's so heartbreaking.
Yeah. So they expected a lot, and that forced me to think why they are expecting from me actually, because I'm not their relative, I'm not a politician, I'm not even in administration, not a CDO. So why they are expecting from me? Because my home is far from here, almost 1,000 kilometers from there. They are not my relatives, not my people. Still, they were expecting hugely from me. So that forced me to realize my social responsibility, basically, because they regarded me as someone educated, someone seen overseas. So they saw some potential in me. Essentially, they saw some rescuer or liberator in me. And that really inspired me to do something for them. Okay. Yes. Up to that point, I had no interest in politics. Okay. So at that point, and there were other similar incidences at other places also, even in my village, that forced me to think about politics, basically. Yes. Because all the power lied with politics, everything. Because when I was in my village, some of the farmers came to me to ask for some boring, okay, for irrigation system. Yes. And I tried to coordinate for that. But I miserably failed, because no one is going to listen unless you are in the politics, and unless you are in some party, or you are yourself a party leader. No one is going to listen to you. And you cannot even do that small thing. So I realized that everything was bound to politics, and every solution lied with politics, lay with politics, basically. So I realized the power of politics, and I thought that I must return to Nepal and try to do something for these people who had lots of expectation from me, including my villagers up to the people from the remote places. So I decided to return to Nepal, and I time and again, I blame the whole credit, I give the whole credit to that journey that I took from Mechi to Mahakali for changing my life forever, for good, I think.
Would you say that times have changed and things have gotten better over the years?
Things are getting better. So I think it's not that everything is bad, everything is getting worse. Things are getting better, of course. The question is at what pace we are doing so, and at what cost, okay? For example, if you look in the Tara area, of course, if you go back 20 years ago, there were only huts, only straw houses. Okay, yes. But if you go today, there are concrete houses, or at least tin roofed houses. Okay, you can see the change, but at what cost? That is the big question. Because we are now remittance based country, basically. We are exporting our labor force to countries like Middle East countries or Malaysia, like those countries. So we are losing manpower here. We are losing our youths who could have contributed to the productivity of this country. Yes. Okay, we are only based on remittances. That is not going to help to develop this country in long run. Actually, it may work for the short run, but in long run, it is not going to help us. Okay, and when they are going overseas, the families are disintegrating, the societies are disintegrating. Their children are not going to school, or they are getting addicted to some drugs. No one is going to are there to watch them. Okay, so whole society is disintegrating, basically. And when those workforce are coming back, they are coming with some sort of illness, and they need medical treatment that surpasses what they have earned there. Okay, so it is a huge cost that our society is paying. So we must reconsider this, and that's why I think our party is focusing on the generation of employment as a primary target, okay? And we should do that, okay? Until and unless our country is focusing on production side ourselves, not remittances, we cannot develop, I think.
Well, in your manifesto, you had outlined the need for governance to be transparent and for the need of reforms in the Nepalese constitution to ensure equal rights for all citizens, regardless of ethnicity or region. However, you were heavily criticized by many people for threatening Nepal's national sovereignty through your past speeches that seemed to wish for a divide in the nation. I sincerely find it very hard to believe that such a man would want to divide the nation. That being said, in your mind, what is the ideal Nepal? A Nepal that is united with all three regions, or a Nepal that is divided?
Well, the thing is that Nepal has been quite a monolithic power structure, okay? Being ruled by just one community for almost 200 years, okay? Yes. And even today, despite the fact that there has been some changes, of course, especially with the new constitution, there are still some tendency. For example, if you look at the appointment of ambassadors, you will find just people from just one community throughout. If you see the list of the appointment of the in the judiciary, for example, judges, you will see the people from just one community, or the appointment of CDOs, for example, or SP. Those people who are ruling basically come from one community. Okay, so that is not Nepal I dream of, because Nepal is quite diverse. You see,
of course.
There are so many religions, so many castes, so many creeds.
I mean, that is our greatest pride.
Yeah, and that is a good thing, and that is our asset, I'd say, okay? But rather than taking pride in our diversity, what we are doing is we are suppressing them, basically. We are taking their rights and we are concentrating on just one community, basically, okay? That is not the Nepal I dreamed of. I dream of Nepal where every community gets equal rights, and there are equitable distribution of resources to all parts of Nepal. Okay, whether it be maybe Karnali or where it may be Madhesh, there should be equitable distribution of resources. It should not be like the one part should be quite well developed and another should be left behind. That is not Nepal I dream of. So I think we are working towards that. Of course, when you talk about division, basically, we are not baselessly claiming division. We are basically saying that if you continue to do like this, if you continue to suppress a major portion of population, eventually this might happen. Because this has happened throughout the world. Because no community is going to take it forever, you see.
Of course.
They are going to retaliate at some point. So you should be fair enough to distribute rights equally to all citizens. That's what we are basically saying.
Thus, it's not an argument about dividing the country, but rather uniting it and having everyone represented in it.
Yeah, it is about that. Yes. It is about uniting our country,
but it
and
is
uniting
difficult
our people
to
from
have
all the backgrounds.
Proper representation in governance. It takes very long time to have every single person represented in the government. That being said, what are your opinions on having quotas being met in the government, having reserved seats for each community out there?
See, if you look at the constituents of the Constitutional Assembly, it was very good. Almost every community was represented in that. And they could voice their opinion about their own community or how the constitution is going to affect them, everything like that. But if you look at the tendency, for example, now, what has happened last week only, okay? The government is bringing a provision, despite the fact that we are living in a multi-party democracy, okay? The current constitution does not talk about having only two-party system, okay? Okay? It talks about multi-party democracy. Anyone can make a party, they can contest elections freely, and they can get elected, basically. Now, see the attitude of the ruling class people or the big parties. They are bringing some ordinances or I'll say legislation provision that will essentially bar all other small parties, because they are increasing threshold to 5%. They are asking that you must have candidates at the 80% of the posts. That is not feasible. Okay, they are bringing other provisions like you must get at least your federal representative in 3 provinces to be a national party. So provisions like that they are devising to suppress small parties or essentially wipe out these other parties, so that only the big parties, maybe Nepali Congress and CPN UML, can be there and they can rule in an alternate manner.
Yes.
Okay, and that is not good for Nepal, because Nepal is diverse. At least when we are represented, we can voice our concerns in the parliament. But after that reform, even that is not going to happen. So we are not really moving in the forward direction progressively. Rather, some elements are trying to go back to the past time where they were all powerful. And that is not acceptable for us.
That being said, we have almost come to the end of our episode. For my final question, I would like to ask you if you have any message you would like to give to the leaders of tomorrow, those who will be taking Nepal into the future.
Well, I think you can look at my own life also. I'd like to tell them actually. Because I was a guy who had no interest in politics, no interest at all. Okay, but when I realized that everything you do is controlled by politics, the TV channels that you see, the apps that you can download, the car you drive, anything you can imagine is essentially controlled by politics. Even you can operate TikTok or not, everything is controlled by politics. So once you realize the power of politics, and once you realize that whatever you may do, you may be a big businessman, you may be a big professor, or anything you do, ultimately you have to come back to politics. Because you have to go back to the chairman of the ward committee or some political institution. Ultimately, you have to go there. Okay? And once you realize that, then you will not hate politics. Because younger generation, I find they essentially hate politics. They are almost their mental setup is like that. Oh, politics is dirty game. I don't like politics. I stay away from it. No, it is a very holy thing actually, because it is controlling everything in the world. Just remember the oath ceremony of Trump. Every bright mind was there. Every technocrats, chairman of the Facebook or Google or whatever you can say, they were there, you see. Because it is politics ultimately who would control that. Okay, so there should be no reason for youth to hate politics. You should take interest in politics, because ultimately it is the powerful thing that controls everything. Okay, that is one message I would like to give to the youth of tomorrow.
Now that we've come to the end of the episode, I would like to give you a short and small thank you, a gift to show our token of appreciation.
Thank you.
At the front, you will find the words Ad Meliora written on it. It means in Latin, towards a brighter future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for contributing your words on Words for Tomorrow.